Give me a polarizing player that you want to highlight, Heath.
Yeah, I will go with George Kittle. The way I chose polarizing players was looking at their. I think we did I like big gaps section earlier this offseason, but guys who have the biggest gap in where they've been drafted on NFC in the last week. And George Kittle has been drafted as early as 34th overall, as late as 85th overall. And I can absolutely understand both sides of that argument because George Kittle is an elite talent, arguably one of the. I mean, he's one of the top 2 tight ends in football, and maybe he just overcomes this situation, or maybe Debo or Ayuk's the one that gets hurt by Trey Lance not throwing as much, or maybe Trey Lance just doesn't not throw as maybe he throws more than we think he will. But at the same time, like Ayuk's had a phenomenal camp. Debo seems like the clear number 1, and we think that Trey Lance might only throw 500 passes, so it's terrifying.
So where do you stand on George Kittle?
Right in the middle. Too big of a coward to take a stand either direction. I think I've actually got him in round 6 now, so I'm not ever drafting him. I don't see very much difference between Kittle, Goddard, and Schultz. They may be back to back for me, actually, and I kind of want to rank Goddard ahead of Kittle.
I know Dave ranked Schultz ahead of Kittle. What a shame. I mean, the guy has been top 3 per game 4 straight years.
You say, what a shame. It's like you already know he's going to be bad.
No, what a shame that people are down on him, I guess. It's not a shame.
Oh, okay.
Word, but yeah,
like you've seen the future. What a shame.
No, it's just
because 3 fantasy analysts don't like him.
No, because the industry, and he's so good. I think he's the best tight end in football.
But I think he said it very, very astutely that, we don't know. And, I'm not betting against George Kittle. I'm not betting against Kyle Shanahan. There's going to be some games where he disappears, probably more than he has in the past. And you obviously have to factor in the risk. And it would not be surprised if Schultz and Goddard are better than him. So if you want to, draft that way, I have no problem with that. But there's going to be a lot of games because they're going to make a lot of easy throws for him, for Trey Lance, where George Kittle is going to do what he consistently does, which is yards after catch. And if this becomes his go-to guy, Trey Lance's go-to guy in the red zone, and we get that 8+ touchdown season for him, which we've never had, he could still be a top 3 tight end. It's not without.
I just don't see how the touchdowns would really shock me because I feel like they're going to have fewer passing touchdowns.
They absolutely might. I'm not disagreeing. You can go either way.
Right.
He can still be 5. I hope he's not less. But I also wouldn't be shocked if, knowing how Kyle Shanahan operates and the way that this guy plays, the thing that's a detriment to him, he said it, he's a top 2 tight end. He is the best tight end in football. When you talk about what a tight end traditionally does, he's the best blocking tight end, or at least in the conversation, and he's among the best receiving tight ends. He's not the best receiving tight end. That's obviously been Kelsey, but Pro Football Focus consistently ranks him as the best tight end because of what he does as a blocker. Such a huge asset to the 49ers. But we'll see. I mean, I think he's certainly closer to the Schultz Goddard group than he is closer to the Waller and above group.
And over the last week, he's actually been drafted higher than Waller. He's been drafted before Waller on NFC drafts.
Yeah,
and part of that could be his Waller's missed so much practice time.
Yeah. On Fantasy Football Calculator, Kittle is at 4.7 and Waller is at 5.2. Okay, Jamie, give me a polarizing player that you want to talk about.
Well, you mentioned one already. I've stopped drafting Travis Etienne in the 3rd round mostly because I pushed a plethora of receivers up. So he's still a 4th round pick for me. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I like him as a breakout candidate. And the ESPN story that you're referring to also mentioned him. There's a more in-depth story by Mike Duraca, who covers the Jaguars for ESPN, does a great job, about how James Robinson is probably going to be eased into action in the beginning of the season, and then they'll kind of just see what happens from there. But also alluding to the fact that Etienne's role in the passing game is going to be solidified. So I think it's just a matter of, and this is where I think Heath and I differ, how many receptions you expect Travis Etienne to get. If you expect him to be north of 50, you should be excited about him. If you expect him to be sub 50, sub 40, then you should probably be a little bit concerned. The last preseason game wasn't encouraging from a passing situation because they did not throw him the ball. He still ran several routes, just that Trevor Lawrence didn't look for him. This was a game against the Steelers. But I'm very encouraged by, I think, and this is something I think that we forget a little bit. That first game, he kind of got critiqued for not running some cases the right ways, not finding the hole, following the way that he was supposed to run. He missed a year of football, and so I'm sure there's some instincts that are there, but also some things that are missing. I thought he ran better in the second game against the Steelers. He had 3 carries of his 10 that were over 5 yards. So did a good job of moving the pile on a couple of those and finding the seam and getting through there. So I think if he's able to run successfully early in the season, they'll continue to at least split those carries with James Robinson. But he's going to be a huge factor in the pass game, at least the way I view it. So I'm still excited about Etienne.
Yeah, I think and I don't know if you want to start the touch comparison or anything like that, Adam, but that's what I struggle with. And that article that we've referenced many times suggested that eventually James Robinson by midseason could get back to his normal workload. And I just, that doesn't make any sense to me.
In what regard?
If James Robinson's at his normal workload, that's 18 touches a game.
Yeah, I don't see that.
There's no, I don't think, unless Jacksonville is just a much, much better offense than I expect they're going to be, or they're like an Anthony Lynn running back focus type situation, that doesn't leave any room for Etienne to be as good as we think he could be. I've got it projected right now, 180 carries for Etienne, 160 for Robinson, basically. And 46 catches for Etienne and 23 for Robinson.
I think if you believe in Etienne, he's got an audition. And if he comes out and runs really well at the beginning of the year, basically I'll just say, doesn't it seem like his performance at the beginning of the year is going to really determine how this plays out?
I don't think that they want. I mean, look, the article also references Doug Peterson's track record with running backs, and he doesn't usually give guys north of 200 carries. So one guy north of 200 carries. So yeah, I think his carries are actually perfect, for what you should expect for these two guys. I just think there's going to be more catches for Etienne. And you're right, Adam. Yes, it'll be an audition to see how he does. But I don't think they also want to overwork Etienne. I think they realize the asset that they have in him and, want to make sure he's probably ready for when they can compete, which I would expect if they're building the right way a year from now. They'll be a team that's in the playoff picture if things go well this year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll be one of those teams that's, around 500 come the last month of the season if things go well, and then maybe see how they finish. But I don't think they're going to overwork Etienne. I just think that his main benefit to fantasy managers, and this is where I'm almost 10 spots apart, PPR versus non-PPR. His main benefit to you is in any league that rewards catches.
All right, so one more guy I want to talk about before we get into some other news items and all the other stuff we have to talk about today is Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's polarizing because I see it in our chats on YouTube. People think he is washed. I'm going to say washed up because washed, that's the correct way to say it, not washed. Some people say he's washed up, he's done. Some people think he's, going to have the role and going to be good and played hurt last year. And I think he's a really tough player. I'm polarized in my own mind on Ezekiel Elliott. So who do you guys like better, Travis Etienne or Ezekiel Elliott? I also want to get a little YouTube poll going here on that. Travis Etienne or Ezekiel Elliott? I'll put it in full PPR. Heath, who you taking?
I will take Zeke. I watched the stream last night during the draft, and I almost I couldn't chat for some reason. I messed something up. But I wanted to yell at Ben Gretsch when he was talking about how little upside Ezekiel Elliott had. I just don't understand. I really believe if Ezekiel Elliott's back to what he was at the beginning of last year, they're going to give him 20 touches a game and a chance to be a top 5 running back.
Jamie, who are you taking, Etienne or Zeke?
Etienne. I don't think that Zeke is going to be that guy for a full season because I don't think he can stay healthy like that again. I'm just not confident that he's that guy. I don't think this offensive line is the same. I don't think that he has the same type of upside that he used to have. So I'm concerned. That being said, at cost, I think Ezekiel Elliott has become a very good buy. Round 4 to me is fantastic for a player of what his upside hopefully could be. But his ADP still, at least on our site, as of last Sunday, was 30th. In non-PPR, maybe you could buy that. In half or full, no way.
Zeke is 27th. He's RB 15 on Fantasy Football Calculator. And again, like I said, I'm going to start using CBS, I think, beginning next week after a big weekend of drafting. But you go to different websites, you'll see different ADP. Fantasy Football Calculator says a bunch of mock drafts since August 20th that they're looking at here. And Zeke is an early third-round pick ahead of James Conner. Cam Akers is in the third round, so that's interesting. Ahead of David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins. All right, so Etienne and Zeke, you guys are split on that. Who's your favorite between Etienne, Zeke, and let's throw in David Montgomery?
I go Etienne, Montgomery, Zeke.
Montgomery, Zeke, Etienne.
How about Breece Hall? Where does he factor in?
He is ahead of Zeke, behind the other two.
He is second behind Montgomery.
Okay. All right. So let's
got these guys in a wildly, but they're all like within 10 spots maybe in my overall ranking. So it's not like I actually have a strong preference. It's just the order I've got them in.
Yeah, I would agree. Like Etienne's a high 4th round pick for me. Montgomery's not far behind. Hall is not far behind. Zeke's a little bit further back, but all around 4 guys.